A very good morning to one and all. I am Shreya Rai, second year electrical engineering student, will be your anchor for today's session. Please have a thorough look at the instructions present on the screen. Now I'd like to invite our Honorable Director, Professor Dr. Bhavesh Kumar Chauhan for our welcome address.
I, on behalf of our Honorable Chairperson, Srimati Alka Das of BBD Educational Group and President, Shri Viraj Sagar Das of BBD Educational Group, as well as all other stakeholders of the Institute, BBD ITM, and IEEE Student Chapter, BBD ITM, and in particular, V Affinity Group of BBD ITM. Welcome Speaker of the Day, Professor Sita Lakshmi K. Ma'am. It's an honor. She has been a former director of our institute, and during her tenure, the institute made its commendable progress. So, ma'am, it is really gives a lot of sense of pride as well as a joy to welcome you. Despite your busy schedule, I know in the university as well as being a head of the electrical engineering department at IET Lucknow, which is one of the prestigious institute of North India, you accepted our invitation immediately. So we really feel a sense of gratitude towards you for having accepted this invitation. And I know this session is going to give a new memory, refreshing memory, because now these young students, they will be getting a first opportunity to interact with you. The seniors have had the fortune of interacting with you, but our young students, they will also be connecting to you. That's really a very special feat as I perceive it, personally as well as officially. So on personal behalf also, you have been such a great support and a really inspiration as an academician. So we really feel that today is a special day for V Affinity Group, because you yourself is a role model. I personally as well as officially believe the way you have been making a consistent progress, keeping a right balance between administrative as well as academic assignments, and making a mark and significant note. So I think for young girls who are doing engineering and looking for a bright career ahead, I think you are an inspiration. So a lot of, I think I would thank in advance. And for me also, this is one of the most important session which I had been eagerly looking up to. So it's really, I think it's for BBD ITM, it's a special day, particularly considering that you are addressing in a V Affinity Group. So I congratulate all the organizers of this event, all the office bearer of V Affinity Group, and I'm sure keeping linkage with you, this V Affinity Group will be achieving more significant dimensions in time to come. So keep mentoring this group. This is my personal as well as official request also, though they will be interacting with other personalities also. But since you have had an experience at BBD ITM in past also, so your attachment both personally and officially will definitely be lasting. So once again, thank you on behalf of all the stakeholders of BBD ITM. Thank you. Over to the anchor. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for your blessed words. Our speaker for today's expert talk is Dr. Setha Lakshmi K. She is the Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Lucknow and a senior member of IEEE. She has completed her PhD from IIT Kanpur in 2011. She pursued her MTech in 1996 from College of Engineering and BTech in 1991 from Regional Engineering College, Kerala. Her professional experience list includes being an associate professor at IIT Lucknow, a professor at BBITM Lucknow, assistant professor at Anand Engineering College, Agra, Vadodara, an engineer at WS Industries Limited, Bangalore, a research associate at Central Power Research Institute, Bangalore, and many more. She has also been the head at many administrative levels and a recipient of a number of awards. Now, it's my humble request to our respected speaker, Dr. Sitha Lakshmi, to give her expert talk. Ma'am, please, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome and the nice words. And it has been really a pleasure for me for getting me an opportunity to interact with the BBD and ITM, and especially to the students. Probably after my PhD, that was one of the platform I got in BBD and ITM in the same capacity as the head of the Department of Electrical Engineering. And at that capacity, I could have wonderful interactions with then students and also with very good colleagues of mine. So irrespective of the platform where I am at present, I am more than happy to have a continued interaction with the institute. And of course, the institute, apart from when we forget about all other constraints with the private engineering institutes, but this is one of the greatest institutes I have ever seen, who always promotes the intellects and always gives a little bit of freedom to make your visions come true. So in that way, once again, I'm highly thankful to the organizers of this wonderful event, and of course for having constituted an IEEE Student Society, Student Chapter at BBD NITM. I personally also I congratulate Professor Bhavesh for the same, and also for his continued effort in putting it up over here. So let me be starting this particular presentation. Probably at some point of time, you might feel. I hope that the majority of the audience over here would be the undergraduate students. So probably at some point of time, you might think that this is some kind of lecture which is not at present, which matters to you. But probably, yes, this just gives an outside, just gives a kind of an information, and how these informations could be conceived and could be studied for coming up with certain technologies. So you might take this particular presentation as a kind of upcoming field and information on upcoming field. And of course, the thought is yours, the research is yours. How would you be able to arrive at the solutions for it? So let me start with the presentation. And by any chance, if my screen is not visible or if I don't become audible, kindly raise your hand and kindly let me know. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Fine. So, uh, in today's topic, as it has already been announced, it says about the renewable energy integration, the challenges and opportunities. Mainly as the power system engineers, we do give a lot of focus on the power system integration side. As an electrical engineer, you might have started your studies with the basics of electrical engineering, where you have been introduced to sources, passive elements, active elements, and so on. But as the undergraduate study progresses, you try to confine the particular elaborative things what you have studied being put under certain subject areas. Probably you would have identified it as a network analysis, machines of different types, and later on, that network analysis also, you have further categorized into power system analysis, classified a specific discipline, power system, and then power system analysis, and so on. So probably I presume that the students who are presently, they are from electrical engineering or from electrical engineering wing, though other in this particular discussions what we are going to have. So specifically for electrical engineering students, having categorized a particular grouping as power system, you were more into the focusing on what are the power system elements and what kind of analysis we can do it in power system, and what is that generation consists of, what is meant by transmission, and what is this distribution consists of. So when we have discussed the power system under its three constituents, generation, transmission, and distribution, we all the time started thinking generation in terms of fuel requirements, in terms of the conventional ones, that is, you always believe that petroleum fuel, that is an inevitable part. And we always, rather, we are the major consumers of the same, even now. Now, the very of late, people start talking about why don't we start harnessing the energy which is available in plenty in nature. The nature has gifted us. So why don't we think of harnessing that? So definitely we do not have to talk about scarcity over there. When we talk about fossil fuels, there definitely when there is something which is being quantified, the overutilization or the utilization over a continuous period of time definitely would call for a scarcity of that. So the promotion of renewable energy sources, which majorly consists of solar, wind, and these are all the when we talk the promotion of these renewable energy sources has been started from the scarcity of fossil fuel. At present, 86.4%, approximately 85%, you can think the world supply is based on fossil fuel. And definitely, we requires millions of years for decomposing the organism, for decompositions and transforming in the present fuel structure. And at the other side, this is on the input side. The other side, when we talk about the energy demand, it doubles almost every 14 years. We talk about revolutions, we talk about industrial revolutions, we talk about the expansions. It actually comes on energy demand. Now, this is a far prediction says that the fossil fuel reserves will be consumed within 104 years. So this is something we are utilizing a kind of a source which is depleting very fast. The other side, the demand is exponentially growing. And the another side of this one is we have now got increased environment concerns because technological advancements, population growth, this has led to the industrial revolutions and a more focus on environment and the health hazards. This has also taken a great concentration on this utilization and rethinking on it. Now, if you just see the predictions on how the energy consumption by region, if it how does it grow to a year of maybe up to the level of 2050, we would see that it is expressed in quadrillion British thermal units, BTUs. In your textbooks, refer that BTUs, British thermal units. So see that present we are in 2020 and see the way it grows. So in order to meet with this one and the highest growth, it is being recorded, it is being forecasted in region Asia belong to. Now the similar kind of predictions have also been done for the fuel and of course what is going to be the share. Now the net electricity generation by fuel, this is also being predicted in trillion kilowatt hours up to 5 trillion kilowatt hours by 20. So where does it, the rest of the power demand, where is it going to be met from? So the net, that predictions which has been made, giving a higher thrust on renewable energy, which is eco-friendly, which we call it as green energy, that a lot of focus has been given on renewables. So renewables, we see that in the next 30, 40 years, the renewables are going to come up. Now, once that is like in figures, if we put it up, renewables are, as we know that, as we see it in and around, it is the fastest growing source of electricity generation. And almost it grows at an average of 3.6% per year. Now by 2050, China, India, Europe, and United States, they would have almost 75% of the world's renewable generation. And natural gas generation, this would also grow by, this is at present also, this grows by a percentage of 1.5 per year from 2018 to 2050. Nuclear generation, which is being considered as the base generation, that is always, it is being utilized as the base power plant, this also grows by 1% per year. In comparison with the growth of renewable generations, natural gas, the level of coal-fired generation remains relatively stable. But its share would reduce, or rather it declines from 35% in 2018 to 22% by 2050 as the prediction grew. As the prediction says, it all the percentage is in terms of total generation increase. So by 2025, in a reference case, if we take renewable surpass coal as the primary source for electricity generation, and by 2050, renewable would take over the coal-based generation. So this is what the prediction says. This is what the focus on the entire world on the green energy as well as on the renewable-based power generation. Now, wind and solar, they dominate the growth in renewable generation. If we just compare the, this is like net electricity generation, the similar ways, if we take it in from renewables in trillion kilowatt hours, by 2050, this is being expected to cross 20 trillion kilowatt hours. So share of net electricity generation from renewables also, this is as the share which has been indicated in the colored portions. Solar and wind, this is going to be dominated, followed by the hydroelectric, and then geothermal and others would also form a small constituent part of it. So by 2050, as far as the predictions goes, renewables will be the major, holding the major share in the net electricity in the world generation scenarios. Now, why do we say that? What is India's stand, and why do we say that the wind and solar would be outperforming the other renewable generations? Hydroelectric, hydropower's share also, would be growing, but its fall at present, it would be the predicted share of the hydropower would be falling from 62% in 2018 to 28% in 2050. That, in other words, the growth of wind and solar would be outperforming that of the hydroelectric. Non-hydroelectric renewables, this increases at an average of 5.7% per year from 2018 to 2050. As already it was indicated, by 2050, the few countries, China, India, and Europe, and the United States, they would be responsible for more than 80% of world's non-hydropower renewable generation. Now, India's rapidly growing energy demand, this is met primarily with renewable generation. The reasons could be that the kind of focus, the kind of policies which we have drawn upon. You might be aware that India is the only one country which has got a dedicated ministry for non-conventional energy sources. You call it as MNES, Ministry for Non-Conventional Energy Resources. Now, the most ambitious plan in India, it anticipates 175 gigawatt of energy from renewable power by 2022 and 275 GW by 2027. This is one of the most ambitious plan, and we are fast approaching towards that. So the solar capacity for the last 5.5 years, if you see, it has grown from 2.6 gigawatts to more than 34 GW. That is where we stand right now. Now, the current status of generation in India, if we say, in total, we are at 348 megawatt, that is 370 GW, that is the present generation capacity. The figures are from the installed capacity figures, which has been taken from Central Electricity Authority. The statistics as on dated 30/4/2020. So the ministry which we are talking about, that the Ministry of Non-Conventional Renewable Energy Sources, the share of renewable sources in Indian sector, this is as per the figures in MNRE site. So central sector generation, this constitute about 25.2%. You might be aware of the central sector generation. Central sector generations are being generally shared by NTPC and NHPC. NTPC stands for Thermal Power Corporation and NHPC stands for Hydel Power Corporations. Now, state sectors, this contributes 27.9% of the energy, whereas private sector, this contributes about 46.9%. And that is the total overall figures of the shares, that is central share, state share, as well as private sector. In private sectors also, you would be having two classifications. One is by IPP, that is independent power producers like Reliance Power, Tata Power, and so on. They produce the power and they produce it for the particular state or central. Now, CPPs, that is captive power plants, they would be utilizing a certain percentage for their own purpose, and the balance they would be selling it to the grid. So they get classified under CPP, captive power producers. Now, these 370 GW, if you further go for a classification of that, total thermal, this is taking a share of 63%. Out of 63%, that is out of 230 GW, 198 GW is by coal. That is a conventional fuel. Lignite, that takes 6.6. Gas, it takes 24.955 GW. And diesel, again 510 megawatt. So all these put together constitute total thermal of 230, 600 megawatts. Renewable, that is Hydel, this constitute 45 GW, nuclear 6,780 megawatt, and all the renewable energy put together, this constitute 87. And this 87 GW, this is what we are expecting it to grow up to the level of 175 GW by 2022 and by 275 GW by 2027. So this is what the generation scenario in our country. Now, the one side, the facilities or the growth, the potential, harnessing capacity, these are all very vivid in the case of renewable energy. The other opportunities, no need to emphasize, there are many. And the one side, when we meet the scarcity of the fossil fuels, other side we have got the energy in plenty. So, but the interconnection, when we talk about power system, is a dynamic network. You cannot store the electricity, and you will have to, at every point of time, you will have to meet the power balance. Power balance in the sense, the net generation will. Is there any problem? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So we were talking about that, the power system, the most dynamic network, you would not be able to store the energy. And of course, there are storing mechanisms. We can talk about it a bit later. At every point of time, the dynamic network will have to meet the equality constraints, or rather equalizing you call it as a power balance constraint. That is, net generation should be able to meet the load plus losses. So the increased level of complexity we'll have to meet. Why do we emphasize the power balance? Because renewable generators or renewable energy is intermittent in nature. Solar energy, it is not available all the 24/7. Wind speed may not be adequate all 24/7. So that is of intermittent nature is one of the major bottleneck or one of the major operational challenges when we talk about power system integration. That's what we say, stochastic nature of power transfer capabilities. The third one being bidirectional power flow across the system. This third point, probably the people who have studied power system protection would be able to appreciate this third point. We would say that it actually challenges all the protection philosophies which were prevalent in the conventional power system. In conventional power system, we all the time thought, or rather, we all the time visualize generators transmitting power, or generators pumping power to the transmission network. Transmission network carries the power from the source to the load or where the power is being dissipated. So always the energy flow was unidirectional in nature. So all the philosophies were defined to cater to this unidirectional flow of power. When the unidirectional power flow has been defined, taking an example of distribution system, we had a distribution substation. So the substation power flow were always from substation level to the load end. So when we talk about a protection system, when we think about how the protective equipments to be arranged, that is, in case of any disturbance, how these devices will have to operate and isolate the faulty regions, the devices which we had planned were anticipating the unidirectional power flow. Now, incorporating the renewable energy into the system, even at many levels, micro levels, mini levels, and maybe at larger levels, have challenged this protection philosophy altogether. We might be having a rooftop solar at our home, maybe at our office, maybe at the complex. We have utilized whatever is in need for us, and the balance we would like to pump into the system. Pumping into the system, this happens at a PCC, we call it as a point of common coupling, where the grid has got a connection with the consumer. Now, the distribution network, if we talk about earlier, the complex where you were at present having the solar rooftop, earlier that was a load. So the power flow direction was always, the anticipated direction of power flow was from substation to that load. Now what happened? You had a small generator, maybe a solar power generation at your rooftop. You are utilizing whatever is in need for you. The balance you are pumping into the grid. You are actually helping the grid. You do agree for it. But the power flow direction that has got reversed. So how about those power protective equipments which you had earlier placed in line with the conventional power system? How is it supposed to operate whenever there is a fault? So it has challenged all the kind of protection philosophies. So the system operator has come to a question. So system operators are facing these challenges. So these are a few challenges which has been faced the power system through the integration of renewable power. Now, whenever we are integrating anything to the grid altogether, we say that the collective network, which is operating in a larger dimension, which comprises of generation, transmission, as well as loads. When we are interfacing anything to the grid, the interfacing mechanism should be strong enough that because the new entry should not be causing any disturbance to the existing system. So there should be some kind of a rules and regulations to be present, which prohibits the new entries to disturb the existing system, and also to ensure that the new entry follows certain quality norms. So the need for this has resulted into grid codes. India has also got grid codes which is mandatory for all the power producers to follow the same. So these rules are the standard procedures and requirements for including or prohibiting connection of the generation plants and loads to the grids. So the grid codes are meant for ensuring the quality of power to the consumers. The moment we say the quality of the power, the quality can be ensured only in some measurable parameters. When we buy something from a particular shop, you ensure that the quality is being put, maybe the parameters, with respect to the parameters what you specify. In power, the quality is being emphasized with respect to certain parameters. That is what is being known as power quality norms. Mainly, the measurable parameters gets accounted for voltage and frequency. These grid codes are also known as interconnecting guidelines, that are the instructions which specify technical and operational characteristic requirements. Now, this is just a pictorial representation of what we were saying, that generation system is present, system operators are present, and prosumers are present. That is, to a certain extent, they are producers also, they are consumers also. All are governed by these grid codes, that is rules and regulations, which enables them to have a connectivity with the existing grids. And that is meant for ensuring power quality to the consumers. Rates in any system, it's a standard frequency. Across the world, two nominal frequencies we follow. 50 hertz, that is the Asian countries, we follow 50 hertz, and Japan also follows 50 hertz. And the balance countries, they follow 60 hertz. So there is a operating band that is up to 49.5 to 50.5 hertz. This has been taken as the normal operation region. Of course, regulation will have to be enforced within that also. This may be allowed to extend from 52 to 47 hertz, that too in exceptional circumstances. 47 hertz is not a standard low frequency limit. Sometimes it is being fixed only at 47.5 hertz or so. The same is voltage variation. I said that this is just like a pulse to a human being. Voltage and frequency, these are the two pulses of the power system. When we say the excursions in frequency, that definitely says that there is a variation in the generation and load matches. That has to be taken care. So that, like a spring balance, when the frequency is at 50 or within that operating band of 49.5 to 50.5, we can take that, okay, generation and load are matching with respect to each other. Whenever there is an excursion or a decline in frequency, that corresponds to a generation increase or a deficit. That is surplus of generation or deficit of generation, which has to be met by the load. The second is the voltage variation. Voltage also, for the higher voltages, normally we permit plus or minus 5%. And in exceptional operating conditions, it would, the permission can go up to plus or minus 10%, but the permission is applicable only for maximum of a duration of 15 minutes only. For lower voltages like 275 and 132 kV level, a plus or minus 10% of the nominal value is permitted. Now, the second pulse, which always measures in terms of voltage, this shows a matches of reactive power in the system. Whether the reactive power generation is sufficient to meet the reactive power load in the system. So this is the second information which we can gather from the information which is being collected through voltages. That is the reactive power surplus or deficit in the system. Now the third one is grid waveform quality. Normally we know that the standard accepted waveform practice is that it's a sinusoidal waveform at constant frequency and constant voltage. Any variation in that which might become detrimental to the specific process or to specific instrumentation and many other things. So the grid waveform quality, this is also to be observed as a part of the grid code that calls for the limits what we are supposed to observe for the harmonic content. Harmonics, as the name indicates, it is the integral multiples of the fundamental frequencies. Definitely there could be a variation, and that variation is due to the prevalence of the nonlinear loads. We are nowadays we talk about earlier we used to talk about the constant power motors only, but now we talk about variable speed drives. Why do we talk about variable speed drive? We want more efficiency. We want maximum output from the given input. So the moment we make the voltage waveform to get deviated from its standard waveform shape due to the incorporation of highly sensitive non-linear loads, we actually calls in for harmonics into our system. Yes, harmonics are permitted, but it is not permitted beyond a certain level. Similarly, imbalance, voltage fluctuations, these are all coming under the power quality, and the grid wave and the grid norms, grid codes have got a restriction on this one. Now, protection system, we already have discussed that. The protection system philosophies have entirely got changed. The protection system, this says that when your renewable system is integrated to the system or not, in both the cases, the faulty part of the system should be isolated within the fault clearing time. Now, excitation and voltage controls, we said that the voltage norms are very prominent. So when the voltage norms are prominent, there should be some control mechanisms also to see to it that the voltages are being maintained. So generally it is being associated with the excitation controls. So excitation and voltage control would also become a part of this grid codes. Now, we have discussed that the grid codes, so majorly it focuses on frequency variation, voltage variation. The moment we say the frequency variation, it actually insists on what should be the injection levels of real power by the renewables. The moment we say that voltage levels have to be maintained, it focuses on the reactive power capability which are to be maintained by this renewable energy integrations. Third thing is being waveforms, voltage waveform shapes. So when we say the voltage waveform shapes to be maintained, that it says that the harmonic content below which this renewable energy sources will have to observe for coming into the system. Fourth is protection system. The moment we say the protection system, it is meant that it has been admitted that the protection philosophies have changed, but the incoming renewable power generators will have to see to it that in the event of fault, whether it is connected to the system or if it is scattering its need to an islanded system, in both cases, the faulty part to be isolated within critical clearing time. So all these put together, it poses major challenges in integration of renewables, though we say that we are anticipating the level of renewable power generation to go to this higher levels by year 2022 or so. So that means being electrical engineers or being power system engineers or being power system operators, we'll have to see to it that we should be able to make all these renewable generators on board, taking into consideration of all these grid codes. So now for renewable energy sources, since we have already communicated that the frequency and voltage norms, what is to be met is very stringent. This also says about a specific terminology, LVRT, that is low voltage ride-through capability or fault ride-through capability. That is, suppose you are supporting the grid. you are support. I am myself being an independent power producer. I am having wind power. I am a wind power producer. I want to support the grid. Now, the grid is facing I was already connected to the grid my equipments. So what happens to the grid? Grid was already facing a disturbed condition. It wanted more generation in need to support the load. But at that time, being an independent power producer, looking into my system security, I have got myself isolated from the grid, which is detrimental to the grid. So the low voltage right through code, low voltage right through restriction on the grid code, it forces the renewable power generators to stay connected during a grid fault, causing a voltage dip at the point of common coupling. PCC, the general term it is known as point of common coupling. That is at the point where you are establishing a connection with the grid. So this figure says that even when the voltage is as low as 0.15 per unit, that is 15% of the nominal voltage, right up to 85% or right up to 90%, you will have to see to it that the renewable power generation system still getting connected to the grid, because grid needs the power. So it is your responsibility to support the grid. So you should be focusing on the protective system which is required for your grid renewable power generating system, so that it would remain connected to the system under the transient faults. So reactive power control. The renewable power integration is being connected, renewable power generators or renewable power generation is being connected to the grid in place of coal-based power. We have a scarcity of fuel, so you are slowly and slowly replacing the conventional fuel-based generation. So you should be able to support the system exactly in the same way what that conventional fuel-based generators were doing. Conventional fuel-based generators were supporting the system through reactive power control. It was adjusting its excitation to support the system with reactive power. So renewable renewable-based power sources should also be able to do it. Now, power quality that we have already seen. The synchronous-based conventional fuel-based synchronous generators never disturb the system with the inherent waveform distortions. It was always contributed by the consumer load. If the consumer loads were that stringent enough, if that strong enough to disturb the power supply at the grid, then only the grid was the power quality at the grid was affected. So similar is the case with renewable energy integration. The moment we talk about integrating this one in that, the waveform, the stringent norms on waveforms, system waveforms will also have to be taken care. So this is just a table where the grid code requirements of various countries have been put up. Now, concentrating on India, it is, as we have already seen, that the normal operation, it is being taken as 49.5 to 50.5, and abnormal conditions, it is 47. I mean, for a stringent or emergency conditions, it would be even up from 47.5 to 51.5. Similarly, low voltage right through, it is from 15% of nominal voltage. That is, even there, if when there is a severe fault, the voltage at the point of common coupling can go up to 10% of its nominal value or 15% of its nominal value. So from 15% to the till that voltage picks up, that is up to 85%, the entire duration, this renewable power which has got integrated to the grid, it is supposed to support the grid. Now, we had generally discussed the general requirements of we have seen that what are the major opportunities for this renewable integration and how the government is supporting and what were the various policies and how their anticipated vision regarding the renewable power integration. The other side, we have seen the opportunities also. Now, what are we as a researcher or maybe an electrical engineering, being into the electrical engineering side, what we would be able to do to find out some kind of solutions for these threats or challenges what is being put over here. So here I'll not be taking much time for this one. This will be certain case studies I'll be showing that how the renewable energy integration has affected the system and what kind of solutions you would be able to put forth for that. And as for suggesting that what kind of preliminary studies we would be able to take it up. So this is focusing on three things. One is system oscillations and transient instability due to the renewable source integration. Second is low voltage ride through, what we had just now discussed. Third one is lack of inertia. We know that one side we talk about replacing the synchronous generators. Yes, it is good because fuel based, the conventional fuel, that is lot of carbon emitting fuels. So when we try to replace the fuel with renewable energy, yes, it is environmental considerations would improve. That is true. But one side, it was giving a lot of inertia to the system. Inertia in a very layman's language, if you talk about, like if a very strong person is standing and somebody has given and disturbed the standing of that person. But he will still stand. He will still even with a small hit, he is going to fall down. So we call it that, okay, fine. He could not stand that, or he has become unstable. So this is what exactly happens with, we try to integrate the system, replacing the heavy sized synchronous generators with multiple lower sized renewable energy integrators, which has been integrated from the distribution side. So the inertia of the system or the mass of the system, that inertia of the system is quite low. And it is being interfaced through power electronic converters. So there is no mechanism for storing that kinetic energy. So since if there is no kinetic energy stored, all of a sudden if there is a disturbance occurs, from where it can release the energy from, it doesn't have energy stored. So this is one of the major challenge which we are facing as a system operator, or maybe as a person responsible for a power system operation, that is, system doesn't have enough inertia. So that is, we call it as the supporting mechanism for virtual inertias. So if you just take one of the, here in this particular study, wind energy integration has been analyzed in most of the cases. So wind energy, when we talk about putting it into grid integration, doubly fed induction generator is one of the most accepted configurations because of its capability to work under variable speeds. So this is being interfaced. The stator is directly connected to the grid, and the rotor side through the power electronic mechanism, that is, it has got back-to-back converters, rotor side converter and the grid side converter connected through a DC link capacitor, that is for the rotor circuit. So this is a common mechanism for doubly fed induction generator, and doubly fed induction generators are the ones which finds wide application in wind energy wind energy based renewable integrations. So stability, we know that. See, this is also a power electronic tight system. So naturally, there is not much inertia over here. So incorporating the replacing synchronous generator with these kind of wind generations, which is connected through DFIGs, might cause oscillations in the system. These persistent oscillations can cause transient instability in the system. So this study was aiming that whether the penetration of this doubly fed induction generator based generators, does it cause instability? Does it cause oscillations in the system? And if these oscillations are persistent in the system, will it cause any kind of instability in the system or not? So for that, a standard system, we call it as a two-area system where multiple synchronous generator, 4 synchronous generators are there, and it is connected between 2 areas through the transmission lines. This has been taken into considerations, and conventionally, all the generators in our practical sense also are equipped with AVRs. We call it as automatic voltage regulators. The major purpose of this one is to maintain the voltages at the terminal voltages, and in other words, to maintain the reactive power. And power system stabilizers are meant for mitigating the small oscillations in the system so that the system remains stable. So the study was conducted. Study has tried to see that when all the generators equipped there are synchronous generator, how does the system stability is. So the first case was that all the machines were connected without any controllers. And the second case is that machines connected with controllers, which is in a normal practical system. Third thing is that, okay, in one of the generator, if it is getting replaced by this kind of renewable energy integration, which is based on DFIG based wind power, how does the system stability gets affected? So in the first case, we have seen that without any controller, system was stable, but these I do not know whether you are familiar with eigenvalues and all. Probably the third year and final year students might have studied the control system, and there you would have studied the stability aspects. So we analyze the stability always to see that where does the system eigenvalues or the system roots or the characteristics, where this system characteristic roots lie. So this is one of the mathematical tool. If these eigenvalues are lying on the left-hand side of the S-plane, complex plane, then we say that the system is stable. If it is lying on the imaginary axis or the y-axis, we say that the system is okay, stable, but it is only marginally stable. If it is towards the right-hand side, we say that, okay, system is unstable, you need to redesign the system. So in this case, when there were no controllers associated, we have seen that, okay, fine, the system was marginally stable. And when this was placed with controllers, we have seen that the system has become more stable because your roots have got shifted more into the left-hand side system. This is the mathematical analysis says. So that is, the system has got a larger damping ratio in the system. Now, when this first generator was replaced by a renewable energy generation, that too with DFIG based, we have seen that these eigenvalues or the roots have shifted more in towards the origin. That is, the more and more it is getting shifted towards the right hand side, the more and more we are inviting instability into the system. So when we talk about mathematical terms, it would not be very clear to us. What we have seen is that whenever we examine a stability, what we do is that in the simulation studies, we create a fault. We simulate, we presume that there is a fault. That could be a 3-phase fault, or it could be a 2-phase to ground fault, or whatever it is. We simulate a fault, we make that fault to be active for certain duration, and we observe the system. If the system is coming back to normal stage with its oscillations getting damped out, we say that system is stable. Similar to an example I have given for a healthy person with some oscillations, with some kind of a shiverings, he is taking either a new position or coming back to an original position, we say that the system is stable. Similar is the case with the power system. So we have seen in that in the first and second cases, this was coming to a stable condition. But when we have replaced the first generator with a doubly fed induction generator, that is a wind energy based configuration, where the power electronic converters are interfaced in between, we have seen that for the same fault duration, the system is not becoming stable. You see that this is what is being shown is system speed, rotor speed. So for synchronism means all the machines will have to rotate at same speed. So this is the one of the rotor, it is going out of synchronism with respect to rest of the things. So you always, when you say synchronism, you can all the time imagine that it is something like a stretched rubber band, which if you are pulling across your fingers, and from every finger knob, you have got some kind of a rotating spheres. So what happens if one is rotating very fast, that rubber band will break. Or if one is rotating very slow, that will get hanged at that particular point. This is what exactly when you mean a synchronism. For the system to remain intact, all the machines, all the rotating knobs will have to rotate at the same speed. So that doesn't happen when this penetration happens. So what is, we are trying to say that, we don't say that it is not possible. We say that the stability does get affected when you try to integrate the system. So when the moment we plan for an integration of with the renewable power generation, we will have to work out some kind of a mitigation technique so that the stability would not pose major threat to a power system. So the similar study was done in another system also to ensure that the observations are right. So this can very well find, you can find always a solution for this one by suitably designing the controllers. There are various controllers like FACS controllers. You can employ it up and then mitigate this. That was also one part of the study. With that, we have seen that that oscillations have been minimized. So I would not be going into the details of it. So what I tried to portray in front of you is that the integration will definitely cause challenges to the existing system operation. So before the integration comes into picture, these operating challenges will have to be addressed through proper mitigation techniques. Now, inertia. We said that the inertia, that is synchronous generator with all its the fuel based generation with all its drawbacks, it was giving great support to the system because that was a great rotating mass. It could store energy in its mass. So that kinetic energy is absent in these kind of renewable based integration. But of course, we do have a lot of flexibility while integrating a renewable energy source. Why? What is the kind of a flexibility? We can have, typically you imagine that an energy storage integrated with the grid through an inverter. Inverter inverts this DC, inverter transforms the DC into AC. And inverter, the switching, the switches which is the part of the inverter, the switching action is performed through certain algorithms. We can all the time have a control over that algorithm. At what moment you want the switch to be on or at what moment you want the switch to be off, you can always control it up. So that is a flexibility we are getting it. So through that flexibility, you can try to see that the inertia which is otherwise which were nil, that could be incorporated in the renewable energy, that you call it as a virtual inertia algorithm. So that what it normally how you can do it up is that you can take the vital parameter from the grid, that is maybe you have taken voltage and current, you can estimate the frequency, can design a control algorithm which see that if there is a frequency variation which is happening in the grid or if there is a voltage variation happening in the grid, according to that you control the firing of the inverter switches based on certain control laws. In these control laws, you can try to mimic the operation of synchronous machine. So though there is no inertia actually present, but you can all the time create a virtual inertia through this algorithms. That is what you call it as virtual synchronous topologies or virtual inertia algorithms. So this talks about a topology which can be utilized over here. And the grid structure, this is a kind of a microgrid structure. You have a DC voltage source connected to the grid through the inverter structure, of course. Have a small synchronous generator is also connected. Put together, they cater to the load. And the load, you have a dynamic load also, that is an induction machine. So you imagine that it's a small grid, that is a small distribution system where you do not have a connection with that the major grid. It's a small synchronous generator which is in parallel with this DC source connected through an inverter was filling the need of it. So here, if this synchronous generator becomes out, or a part of the inertia which normally the synchronous generator is able to give, that you can all the time incorporate through the control algorithms over here. This is a very prominent terminology in power electronic controllers connected renewable energy, that is virtual inertia. A lot of research is going on in this area also. So this talks about how would you normally see. You are trying to mimic the behavior of a synchronous machine. This is how a synchronous machine behaves. Sometimes it accelerates, sometimes it decelerates, provided it's the energy balance, that is mechanical power input minus electrical power output. If it is positive, it would accelerate. If it is negative, it would decelerate. So this phenomena, or this philosophy, we are trying to incorporate in the power electronic, in the control algorithm, based on which the switches can be fired. So we call it as this is a dynamic inertia. With that particular virtual inertia, when we try to put it up over here, we can try to match the frequency excursions in the system. This is really, it is a mandate, because grid code is necessitating that the renewable energy integration, whatever you are planning to make it into the system, should be able to meet the frequency regulation. So these are the kind of control techniques through which you should be able to meet those kind of restrictions. So the last one which we will be discussing over here is low voltage ride through. I told that the grid code necessitates that even when the voltage at point of common coupling, even it is as low as 15% also, even then you want the system to be your renewable energy integrated system, renewable energy to be connected to your grid, and it should be able to supply the power also. It should be able to support the system in the difficult times. So there are various methods for providing this low voltage ride through. Some of them are classified under through an external retrofit. So you design some kind of an external device, you connect that device between the grid and your renewable energy generator, so that device will come into action whenever it calls for it, whenever there is a low voltage. The second category is that you don't put any external device. You have got power electronic converters working within your system. In the case of a DFIG based interconnected system, you have got rotor side converter as well as grid side converters. You meddle with the control algorithms of these these converters to see to it that it provides an LVRT capability. So there are various methods. Every method has got certain advantages as well as disadvantages also. So this has been widely researched area. The conventional was always a crowbar method, which always tries to protect your induction machine from the fault. But the disadvantage is that it will not be able to support the reactive power, which is a mandate as far as the grid code is concerned. So of late, what is the case study has been done as a part of the research which is ongoing in the department. This here it has been studied that can we think of enhancing the stability or meeting the grid code through a fault current limiter. So a bridge type fault current limiter was proposed, which comes into action, this will be an external device which will be connected between your renewable energy generator and grid. And in a normal course of running, these switches would be in action. So it will be continuously meeting the load requirements. But the moment if there is an abnormality in the system, a feedback mechanism would warn these switches to go into an off mode, and your R shunt and L shunt, that is limiting the fault current, this will come into picture. This is nothing but when there is a fault there, you are actually incorporating an impedance into the circuit so that the fault current is limited. When the fault current is limited, naturally your renewable generator need not go out of the circuit, because its terminal voltage will not be coming to such a lower value. It will remain itself connected to the system. This is the whole philosophy of it. So for that, a novel hysteresis controller, that was advancement in the controller was proposed, and a stability analysis was done. But however, the entire concept behind this talk was that, like, though there are challenges in the integration, the opportunities with the integrations are many. So we cannot forego those opportunities, or we cannot forego the advantages of renewable energy integration. So renewable energy integration is a must. We'll have to go in for. The other side, technology is also growing at a faster pace. The development in the power electronics wing has taken up enough so that you would be able to support your technical need or technical challenges which is being faced in this integration. A lot of scope for the research which is in this integrated operation, which would make these kind of operations feasible. Here I would be winding up this talk. For winding up, as we have seen that the opportunities are many, it opens up new opportunities in various fronts like solar, wind, biomass, and this one. The major focus of today's discussion was that due to this interconnections with this anticipated plans of India government, what are the challenges we might be facing, and mainly the operational challenges, and how to go about in addressing these challenges. Only 3 challenges we have further analyzed it over here. First, we need to see that how prominent those challenges are, how effectively we would be able to mitigate. There are a lot of research efforts which is going on, and a lot of research efforts are still needed to address these challenges. But the advancement in the power electronics and of course the data side, this is quite high. So, and communication side, these advancements are quite high. So we would be able to fix up these issues, and we would be able to achieve these targets, whatever has been visioned. So I'm highly thankful to the audience for your patient listening. Now, I think any doubts, any clarifications, whatever is best to my knowledge, I would be able to fulfill that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a knowledgeable session on the interesting topic. Now the platform is open to all. If you have any question related to the topic, you can put it down in the chat box. I think so. No one is having any queries. So the feedback form has been circulated. Please make sure that you all fill it. Now, I, Anshika Singh, would like to call our V Affinity Group Counselor, Professor Kanika Lamba, for the vote of thanks.
Hello, thank you, Shreya. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the IEEE members who gave me an opportunity to speak on this auspicious occasion. It is a matter of honor for me. Once a great man whispered, feeling thankful or not expressing it, it's like wrapping a present and not giving it. Today, I take the opportunity to put all my gratitude into words. On
Hello?
behalf of
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, is there any issue? Actually, I was stuck with Are you waiting for something? I am seeing a silence in the program.
No, sir. Actually, Kanika Lamba ma'am is giving vote of thanks,
Okay,
and
okay.
and
Please.
after that we will invite you, sir.
No, it's okay. Please go ahead.
Okay,
Because I
okay,
saw
thank
the
you.
silence, that is why I was wondering.
Sir, we will call you for the closing. That's
It's
why I'm
fine.
asking.
Please, please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the IEEE committee members who gave me an opportunity to speak on this auspicious occasion. It is a matter of honor for me. Once a great friend whispered, feeling thankfulness and not expressing it. It is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Today, I take the opportunity to put my gratitude into words. On behalf of the entire BBT IDM team, I would like to thank the Honorable Speaker, Professor Sita Lakshmi K, for accepting our invitation gladly for this knowledge sharing session. Ma'am, your work-oriented nature, dynamic personality, and your achievements are inspiration for all young women. We expect favor from you in the coming future for promoting women awareness in technology field. I particularly like the seminar where you mentioned the need of renewable source of energy in present world. Definitely, it is going to prove very useful for all of us present here. I thank you from bottom of my heart and expect more from you in coming future. We expect more to come, sir. I would also like to mention my thanks to Dr. Khadim Moin Siddiqui, WIE advisor and organizing secretary. Thanks, sir, for your effort, consistent hard work, and guidance in building WIE in BBT ITM. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank the student organizing committee, Srikant Singh, Morit Nandan Tripathi, Sheikh Khanna, Abdullah Ahmed, Anshika Singh, and also the student IEEE committee members, Shakshi Priyam, Chairperson, Vijay Shukla, Vice Chairperson, Shrey Rai, Treasurer, Yashika Yadav, Secretary, Shambhavi, Webmaster. Thank you all you students so much, and also the support staff for complete preparation of this task. In this such a short time, you have made the best arrangement for this program. Thank you so much wholeheartedly. It's not possible to thank everyone for such an appreciating involvement and willingness they have expressed to finish the task. Saying thanks is a very small word, but your efforts are much big. In the end, I would like to thank respected delegates, respected speakers, and participating authorities. Thank you again for making this event successful. Thank you so much.
Please have a look at our upcoming event. Now I would like to call our director BBT ITM, Dr. Bhavesh Kumar Chauhan sir, to declare the event officially closed.
Yeah. I, on behalf of our chairperson as well as president of BBD Education Group, and on behalf of the whole institute, once again offer a deep sense of gratitude to Speaker of the Day for having delivered this lecture, such an important lecture, which was having a good connect with the students, and the theme was really very, very relevant. That was integration of renewable energy. So, ma'am, thank you very much, and I congratulate through branch councillor BBT ITM and organizing secretary of this event, as well as chairperson and all other office bearers of BBD ITM student branch, and particularly chairperson and all other office bearers of V Affinity Group for having requested ma'am and eventually arranging this lecture and doing this series so successfully. So congratulations, and I think we can go ahead with the event. Thank you very much, ma'am, on personal as well as on official behalf for your kind
Thank
support
Thank
and
you,
blessings.
thank
Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now the quiz link has also been circulated. Please make sure that you all fill it. Now you can leave the platform. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy.